What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brutal Planet Comics. I'm your host, Dre the Brute Daniels, and welcome to another episode of the Indie Corner, where I sit down with everybody from the Indies community, writers, artists, directors, producers. Doesn't matter if you're in the game, I want to talk to you. So we have ourselves a guest and a massive creator of sorts. He is the founder of CnS Comics and is the writer of The Captains and Tales of the Stars. Give it up, everybody, for Wilson, the Cosmic King Lee. What is going on, my friend? How are you?
Man, I'm better than anybody ever should be, and blessed to feel that way. How's it going for you tonight?
I'm doing quite well on this Tuesday. I'm so happy that you're able to make time to come on the show.
It's my pleasure to be here. I appreciate everything that you do for the community, the indie community, the creative community. And I'm excited to be here, man. Like, I've been waiting to get up in here and nerd out with you for a bit. So looking to have a good time.
Oh, for sure. The pleasure is all mine. Now, before we dive into all the goodies, let's just talk about who you are, where you're from, how did we get here?
Well, my name is Wilson, the Cosmic King Lee. I got that title from my man D from FTO Nerd Talk. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina. I always loved to read and always loved to write. I also just, had like a good play, a lot of different mediums for storytelling, really. So I used to nag everyone and tell them long stories about dinosaurs and different things before I could figure out how to write it down. So I've always been a storyteller, always loved a good story. Grew up good, got a great start with my family. You got to have people around you who support you dreaming big for you to be brave enough to go out and do that. So I'm thankful for that support mechanism that existed for me. And that's a lot about how we ended up where we are, is me wanting to try to create something that could do the same thing for other people who, want to try it, want to shoot their shot, want to give it a go. And, we want to break down some of those barriers. So thankful for what we've been able to do so far.
Absolutely. And I pretty much have the exact same philosophy. I believe that a rising tide raises all ships. Right. So with what you're trying to do and grow this platform, I think it's really dope. I think it's really, really cool. And also I want to thank you for the fine compliments of trying to get on the show. And I'm just happy that you're here. So you said you're from North Carolina. Actually, I have family roots there too.
So I grew up in Havelock. I'm in Wilmington now, and CnS Comics is out of Wilmington, but Eastern North Carolina all day, the Crystal Coast. If you know anything about where we're at down here, Harlow, yes, represent. So that's where my family is.
Yeah, I have family in Durham. I have family.
Oh yeah, the Bull City.
Yeah, so I have family in Durham, and Burlington, Almanance. So I'm dip and dab all around there. I visit there frequently. I do enjoy North Kakalaki very much. So I always enjoy my time there.
How to eat down here too? So.
I gotta stay away. I gotta keep this figure going now.
Hey, man, come on, man.
I gotta try.
Take a vacation. It's vacation.
Yeah. Now it's vacation time. I gotta tell my wife, hey, it's gonna get rough now. It's gonna get rough. Hold tight. But that's great, man. I'm great. Thank you so much for sharing your roots in that regard. So in regards to your comic journey, do you believe that where you come from and the roots, do you believe that affected your writing style and how you decide to grow as a writer?
Well, education was highly encouraged. My mother was a teacher. My pop is still a teacher in his way, just not like the classic go to school teacher, but he's always got a lesson for you one way or another. So they were always for you doing something. You weren't supposed to do nothing. And, I tried a lot of different things, thankfully, and got to I always, like I said, was always caught up in the narrative, always like to write and to orate. I don't mind getting up there and giving a good oration as well. Like, I like a good speech. It's just something about communicating. And there's this euphoric thing about speaking and being understood and feeling like somebody got you. And I guess there's that vanity of that any creator, I guess, has a little bit of that. Maybe you should understand me.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm willing to try to put myself out there to be understood. But what I learned in my journey was that really I wasn't telling a story that belonged to me. And that's what really, opened up my perspective when I realized that I share a story that belongs to many different people. And there are many stories that belong to a lot of us. And storytelling is, I've always said, the most powerful impactor of human history. Like the stories we tell about the world around us and about ourselves are what shape our reality. So I think it's an important duty to take those stories and take care to tell the stories that aren't getting told, for sure, but storytelling in general.
And I agree with you. And I gotta say, Wilson, we might been cut from the exact same stitching. Because my mother is also an educator. She's been teaching elementary school for decades and decades and decades. And education was in the forefront of my life as well. And my father, though once again, not my father's not a teacher, but also pushed education. And
Right.
he is a history buff. And I everything you're saying, I'm like, yo, that sounds like my journey a little bit. I'm like, is he a clone? Somebody better.
Does it resonate?
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what I
like, is
mean?
somebody was
I mean,
somebody
that's
done
how
siphoned the
that's how
DNA a little bit?
It's a lot of us that share a story, and there's a need for those stories to get told.
Agreed.
It's a time for them to be told. So yeah, it's just powerful, man.
All
It's
right.
a powerful bond to share a narrative.
Agreed. Agreed. And what you also said about orator, I love doing oratory things as well. I've done a lot of public speaking. I've done stand up comedy. I I like you, just like you. Me and you like this. Like
Right? I can feel it.
storytelling.
I can feel it.
Storytelling is the vibe, and I think it is the purest form of media. Full on storytelling, looking at a perspective, speaking to a perspective, and then seeing how other people vibe with said perspective or differ from it. So I really like the writing and oratory medium just like you do. We might be twins, Wilson. We might be twins.
Hey,
Just might.
worse things. There's worse things.
So let's jump into your journey just a tad bit. So how did you get into the comic business in of itself?
Well, I guess we got to go all the way back. I wanted to write my Tolkien novel, like the high fantasy that told my stories within that high fantasy world. Because that's my jam. Like, I love the high fantasy story, but the story isn't, like, I got a fantasy all the way out. There's not a lot of straight line connection for me through a lot of those stories. But they're awesome in the action, and the storytelling is fantastic. And I wanted to write something that was like that, but kind of had my swag put to it. So
I got you.
I set out to do that. And I was creating the grand city of Drellin. It was the last stronghold of humanity. The darkness had closed in, and it was corrupting some and destroying and devouring others. And this was it. This was all that was left of the people who had the light. And they were faced with the ultimate darkness and a great evil. I was writing this novel, and I was going to found the origin point of my magical people that start my high fantasy world, which is still going to happen in a different incarnation.
Okay.
But to found these people, I needed an origin point. I was like, all right, so now I got them surrounded and getting ready to be destroyed. Now I'm going to liberate them with what? And that's where the immortal queen Tola Shah came from. She beams out of the space, and the reason she loves these last few and favors them and comes to their aid is because even when they faced certain death, they decided certain death was better than corruption. It was better for me to stand up for my beliefs and what I was for than it was to live on as a part of something that I could no longer really live in. It was no longer me. So that's what drew her to them and why she came to them. And that was kind of the origin point. But I got caught up in Tola Shah. And I was like, well, damn, where did Tola Shah come from? Because she was like doing crazy stuff in my mind. Like there was this army of darkness. There were these creatures called Uman that I'll break out for you. There's a digital mini we did one time that's kind of got some of those sketches by my man Vico Frio from back in the day. It's been a bit now since we did those, because you know how that is when you're kind of forming it all together.
Especially when you're going from the evolution of what the character's going through. Lord Jesus, I have sketches as long as my arm, and then the end result was not what it started off as. So I know I know it all too well. How many hours I've burned. Back,
though. The Uman they're not gone. Like this is just a creation I really like. They're freaky. They make you very uncomfortable to look at. And I like to do that sometime with imagery, is just give you imagery that makes you uncomfortable, but I don't make you uncomfortable for no reason. I want you to always question your discomfort when you feel it, and look inward about your discomfort and why you have it. Sometimes I think we always try to solve the outside world as opposed to solving the inside world you're actually in control of. Not to say that there aren't outside forces they're there, but the more in control of you are, the more powerful you are too. Like I always say, my superpower would be the ability to control every one of my molecules on an atomic and a subatomic and a whatever is below that, a quantum level.
So like
control of my
full mental and physical autonomy.
Everything where like I understood every essence of my being and could kind of like, Dr. Manhattan style, but something like that where I was in control, but I could only do it to me. Like I wouldn't want to be able to do it to the outside world, because I feel like being able to do it to me would be enough. I would be as powerful as I ever needed to be at that point.
I agree with that.
So
that's pretty dope.
Yeah. Don't I don't like that, but I just like it. I would, sometimes I worry I'm a villain though, because I'm like, people are always like, well, powers like that generally lead to me being left alone. That's what it leads to. Like, you can't bother me if I don't want you to bother me at that point.
Ultimate solitary. I'm with that.
Right. Not necessarily, but you don't got to deal with it if you don't want to.
Yeah, that's true.
Pick and choose. Cherry picking system.
Cherry picking's cool.
No, nobody gets to live like that.
Yeah.
It's always just such a good thought.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So Wilson, in regards to the creative process, I want to ask you your opinion. Like you created this world all in your mind before it even reaches the paper. How is it that you are able to organize this vast world that you created before you even put it onto the pen? Onto the paper. How is it that you're able? Like everybody has a different creative process, and I'm curious on how you do yours.
I'm a self-storyteller, so I'll come up with some crazy stuff, right? But you come up with like a million amazing ideas a day, and I feel like this is true for 90% of all human beings on Earth. Have a million amazing ideas a day that you just don't have time or inclination or motivation or skill set currently available to bring to fruition, but it doesn't mean the idea wasn't powerful. So that I always tell people, good ideas are never good enough, because bad ideas executed beat good ideas that stay in imagination land. It just is what it is. To the finisher go the spoils. But
Fact.
Yeah, I'm a self-storyteller. So like, if I tell myself a story about something and then I can't stop telling myself a story about it, then I'll keep telling myself that story. And then if I keep telling myself that story for long enough, then I'm like, I gotta go write this story, because like I done got a whole chapter in my head. Like I know how this is gonna happen to this character. This person is now real to me. This situation must occur. Like, so it's the stories that I tell myself that are the stories that I end up telling others. So that's why CnS Comics, we say that we're here to do storytelling that storytellers will love. So like people want to be a rapper, but they want to be their favorite rapper's favorite rapper. I want to be my favorite writer's favorite writer. So we're telling stories that, you've got to be somebody, the more you want to get out of it, the more you can get out of it. There's a lot of depth to the writing. So you're not going to get a comic that's like what you're seeing today, where it's 32 pages with 15 words. So I'm actually telling you a story along with the pictures. It's not just a picture book. So it'll feel more like something from the 60s or 70s than it does something from the 90s, where the art was just dominating and the storytelling was just, I will make every character that looks cool and you will get one book of it because nobody liked it, but I'll draw some cool characters to see if you like the story I'm telling this time, but you don't, and I hate the writer and I won't pay them, so I don't have good writing. And I think you have a different audience this time that isn't letting publishers get away with stories without stories.
I agree.
They're picking up because they want to actually read a story. So we've got that for you. Shameless plug, CnScomics.com. If you're not reading it and not checking it out, you should be. Check out our What's New page and make sure you follow the newsletter. I'm known for the shameless plug.
Hey, this is all about shameless plug. Plug as many as you can. But I agree with everything you said there. But one thing really stood out to me in regards to the picture book, and you get 5 speech bubbles. You know, I've seen a bad trend with that type of picture book storytelling. Now, it's very rare for that type of storytelling to work. I've seen it work in motion pictures, like look at Samurai Jack or something like that.
Samurai Jack is amazing.
Yeah, but
and I'm not going to say it can't work either. I've seen it done to amazing effect.
Exactly, but it's really hard to catch that lightning in a bottle, for it to translate off the page, to translate into a story strictly through visuals. It's very hard. I've seen it done very, very rarely. Actually, a friend of mine that lives in Portugal, he is actually trying to attempt this. And I told him, I was like, listen, I got your back, bruh. I got your back. But this is a Hail Mary, bruh, from the 1 yard line, brother. This is gonna be a tough ask. And so it's an art form, but it's really hard to execute properly. And I've seen it executed badly many, many times. So but how you're trying to structure things, how like it used to be like in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that.
Best books have balance. The images in the background were so deep. Like, I am a Surfer and Adam Warlock fan. Like,
oh wow,
I'm a King Kirby lover because Kirby had the ability to create so much depth and space within a page, but Starlin and them were filling pages up with words. They were writing shit. Like, they were stories. Like, Surfer is deep and introspective. The Space Wanderer always works on me. It always calls to me. And the Explorer and that aspect, and having that perfect balance is something that I seek. I feel like we get better and better at it the more I work with the artists that I work with. Shout out to Stephen Sash Scott, who is the artist who carries the Tales of the Stars series. Shout out to JP Torres, my main man. He's out of Brazil, that is destroying the captains. Like, he's a student of comic book art, and Sash is the same way. Like, they have, I tell them what decade of comic I want it to feel like, and they deliver it to you. So when you look at the Tales of the Stars and you feel like you're in an 80s, 90s book, it's not by mistake. I want to take you to a right after funk ended type of feeling where you wish funk was still around type of vibe. Like,
I got you.
And then with the captains, that is really just a pure, it's a pure book. It's a pure art. I'm really pleased with what he ended. I have the test copy, which it's a defect because I did bad on my end, and it happens sometimes.
Oh,
but it
boy,
just,
does it. Look, but all things considered, cover looks pretty good.
Oh my goodness, man. It just came out feeling really, really good. The way, and shout out to Comics Wellsprings, who we printed with this time. They're doing great work on the printing front.
I love Comics Wellsprings. They're great
with what they've done. But there's just if you got this on the Kickstarter, it's coming your way soon. Because, like I said, Comics Wellspring is dope. They're doing work. But man, this one, like, there's just some pages in here. Like, I know I was meant to be sharing with you guys, but I got caught up and I'm looking for myself. That is Armis Ret, right? So once you pick up the captains, you'll understand within our universe, she's one of the most legendary spaceway pirates of all time. And by the end of the main story arc, the Tales of the Stars, because this would be considered a prequel to the current Tales of the Stars run, this run of the captains happens before. You get introduced to a lot of the mortal races in the captains. So the captains is the series where I'm using to give you the mortals, and the Tales of the Stars is essentially the origin story of Talasha. And by giving an origin story of Talasha, it creates the pantheon essentially of my universe, which are the immortal beings. And within the Tales of the Stars universe, the TOS first, immortals are an immortal alien race. They tend to not look the same. They're very, very variant. So Toll looks very human-like. Elijah the Blacksmith is a large bovine-like man. The Hoarder is essentially like a worm, a Jedi worm type of deal. That's the Hoarder right there in the corner.
It is a Jedi worm. I like it. I like that design. That design is dope.
He's curmudgeon. He's not friendly. He has a very unique power. All the immortals have one single unique power, but they would be physically dominant to the majority of mortals you would come across, like on the regular. Toll is like kind of OP on the strength and combat side, but most immortals tend to have weirder powers that are more artisan-like. So the blacksmith has the power of ore speak, which allows him to work with materials in a way others can't, and materials that others wouldn't be able to. So it's like a combination of mysticism and magical blacksmithing that you wouldn't be able to do, or a regular blacksmith wouldn't be able to do. So he creates some items that are quite impactful throughout the universe, for the mortals, for other immortals, for other races and beings that are in the universe. The stuff he makes does some stuff.
That is cool. So, I love an immersive world, and that sounds like it. And Wilson, you leapfrogged me because I was gonna ask the question about going into it, but you went leapfrog me. But it's all good, brother.
I'm a nerd.
It's all
out, and
good.
I was just like, well, I did all of this, and there was this thing, and we were like,
Don't worry, Wilson. You are forgiven, my brother. You are forgiven. I understand. Well, since you touched on it a bit, there was a one that really piqued my interest. When I was looking at some of your covers and some of the work that you all are producing over there at CNS, one, explain Talasha a little bit to me, and then I want to jump into dark fantasy because I really like that cover, and it's speaking to me on a different level. So let's save dark fantasy, but explain Talasha because you mentioned that she's a major deity in your universe. Explain like her bit, because
as far as you could have a deity. So she is called into existence, as all immortals are, by a mysterious voice that speaks. It says, my writer tool called a Deus Machina. I'll give you some literature too to all those people out there, little educational information for those who. But yeah, it's like my tool. When I want to do something that I just want to do, I am going to do it. Don't be mad at me. I already told you it's there from the very beginning by introducing the voice that speaks it. So in issue 1, that's how it all starts, is what we call the Advent. And for the way my universe and the ages are set up, Talasha's Advent is at the end of our first age and the beginning of our second, happens through what Toll does, which she is here to slay the cosmic dragons. So that's like the main quest of the Tales of the Stars, is Talasha has been called to finally remove the cosmic dragons from existence with a capital E, which is the universe where all the TOS verse takes place, is in existence with a capital E.
Gotcha.
But Toll, she has I was physically strong, fast. They're not like Flash fast, but they're fast. They're not full on Superman, but they would be strong
Enhance,
and
like
fast.
enhance,
Right.
like that.
And they have massive healing factor. They'll heal from any wound except dismemberment. So dismemberment, you do not regrow limbs as an immortal, but you don't die from getting chopped up. So just know that there are bad things that can happen for being an immortal. Like the Hoarder tells you in issue 2 that during the first war of the Immortals and the Dragons, the Immortals learned there were worse things than death, that they should fear some things violent like that.
Now my imagination's going.
Oh man, you'll get some moments in the universe where you're like, oh, sucks to be immortal, and you don't usually say that in a story. So I love being able to turn archetypes on their head in some ways. Like
that is very unique, and I've never heard. I've been around the block quite a few times. I've never heard anything like that as far as turning immortality into a bad thing.
It's not necessarily bad, but it's not all good.
Yeah, if you dice me up in tiny pieces and I can't die, I'm in trouble, baby.
Man, you don't come back together like the large. Yes, it's a rough way to be.
Got my imagination going. I like that.
We'll look forward to issue 4 of Tales of the Stars next year and our volume 1, which will include some minis that give you the backstories for the characters that have been introduced. And a lot of different content. So that's something to look forward to with the Tales of the Stars. I always digress, but back to Toll every time I start talking about it, because this is where it all comes from, is Toll. So she's the root of everything that I built in the Tales of the Stars series. But she is unique even amongst immortals. So the Blacksmith has Ore Speak. The Hoarder has the power of the Horde, which is one of the most interesting things in our universe. And Toll is fearless, like meaning she has never known and cannot know the emotion of fear. It's never a motivation. It's never a factor. It does not exist for her. So when you speak about it, she just blanks you. Okay. Well, good for you. It seems like you have a thing here, but I'll deal with this. That's fine, whatever your deal is. But that's why she likes brave beings. So that was part of her origin point when I originally created her. She didn't come to save cowards. She came to save brave people who didn't have the resources to be saved. That was kind of the Toll thing. Those people weren't fleeing the darkness. They were making their last stand against it. I'm going to be as bright as I can for as long as I can. It is what it is type of approach to adversity, and that drew her to them. And so she holds that all the way through. That stays true to her, and the way she interacts with other beings, and who she likes, who she doesn't like, and how she treats people is kind of all impacted by her inability to relate to your
weakness.
Well, it's not necessarily a weakness though, right? Because fear can be useful to a human, and sometimes maybe you should be a little bit worried.
I mean, but to her, to her, would that be a weakness? I'm just trying to equate.
You're not the best teammate, right? Like if you don't get scared, you can't understand your team. You can't completely relate. So if you have a disconnect, so making Toll fearless makes her quite powerful, but it also disconnects her from a lot of others in different ways. So
and empathy.
Well, her actual emotional attachment comes from, in my opinion, a better place. Toll is deep.
Okay. See, that's what you got me. Look, Wilson, you got me hooked. I'm asking questions.
I told you, man, you can go layers with the Tales of the Stars about what Toll is. She represents like any writer. You put your aspects everywhere. Like my universe drips me. So the better you know me, the more you'll see me bleeding through in all kinds of different ways. But Toll embodies some of my worst qualities, I would say. Like when you see her wig out, like she gets all raged out. Like that's something I've always had to work on as a person. Like I'm fiery and spirited, so I can get fiery and spirited. It's something that's both good and bad. And I believe in a way your greatest strength is always going to be connected to your greatest weakness. That's just the human condition. It's a beautiful and magical and wonderful thing, and to be exposed and to have that exposure make you stronger and weaker at the same time is awesome. So there's a lot of layers to
Yeah,
Troll, but
that's
she's
intriguing.
fearless.
Look,
Um,
you got my ear hooked.
I'm gonna take you to the next step. I'll take you with me. She's been star bonded. So the stars within the Tells of the Stars universe,
mhm.
the TOS verse, are the most immensely powerful things that you encounter.
Mm.
And without giving away too many spoilers, which I would do, I'll spoil everything. Issue 1's been out for I think 3 years now, so it's fine to tell you the things that are in issue 1. And if you like it, go read it. It's dope. It's available digital and print on our website at cnscomics.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can Google CNS Comics. We have SEO dominance. So check us out. But the stars, they're watchers. They're the watchers of our universe.
Sure.
Their real origin is super deep, and you can't know nothing about that yet. There's more to what the stars are than what you even get here. But in this run, in her origin, they find her as soon as she's called, and they say, "Hey, we are going to give you our power. Will you slay the cosmic dragons?" And Toll's entire temperament is kind of like geared to want the smoke. She's like, I mean, tell me about what this stuff is and let me know what's up. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm game to do whatever, man. I want to go explore. I want to be challenged. I want to see what's happening out there. She's got a strong explorer spirit and a strong desire to be challenged and to overcome those challenges. So she seeks challenge. And the star narrative voice says, and she finds that if you seek challenge, then you'll find challenge.
Yeah.
So she goes about finding her challenges and taking on the struggles that she chooses to take on, and building relationships with other individuals that help her grow and shape her personality as she comes to be within existence, because she's kind of nascent when she arrives. She's a fetal type of thing in terms of how she can relate to this universe, because she's not from here essentially, and that it gets even deeper as you get all the way through, and you see things and all the good stuff that happens way downstream. But the star magic allows her to, that's where you see her pulling out the axes of light and shooting bows of light everywhere, kind of like on a Sinestro style level, but it's also what her clothing is made of. She's forming her clothing from the light magic, and it changes when she wants it to change. And it's kind of a powerful magic that bends to her will. And it's the most powerful magic anybody knows about, but it's fractional. She doesn't get the full deal, but the stars that fell and became the cosmic dragons have full star power. So that's her challenge, is to deal with the remaining fallen stars.
Wow. That's
the Tells of the Stars storyline in that show.
I like
it. It gets deep. There's some fun characters. You run into the Spaceway Pirates and get spun off into the Mortals. And that's just the Grand Cosmic, like the Spaceway Pirates and the Mortals, the Space King, the Children of Kebu, and the different things that you'll encounter with the mortal races. It just depends on what you want. First stage is kind of about setting up the mortals and setting up Toll. So you're getting kind of the last story of the first stage and some fun stuff that I just really want to lay a foundation for when you get into the second age, which is really going to be all about the mortals and some Toll interventions. Then you'll slide down into a world that's more down to earth. If you need something in the street that makes you feel like you're in a regular earth, there will be that for you too. And some comedy and slice of life things that are sprinkled in there, all within the Tells of the Stars universe. I tried to build a universe that was open to other creators and easy to fit into.
And to be able to mesh and mold. I think that's really cool. I'm really liking the world that you're building there, Wilson. I think that is pretty dope and extensive and deep. So I'm really happy with all that progress. That is tremendous. So talk to me a little bit about the dark fantasy here. Let's get into dark fantasy, because I love the cover. I'm feeling it. So I definitely want to hear a little something about it. What you got for me?
So that is like front and center for us right now. We've had a lot of success with Kickstarter, a lot of support from the community. So thank you guys. And we really appreciate all the blessings that you drop on us when you like it. follow it. We have a soundtrack that people listen to. So if you stream music, look for DR Harden and the Tales of the Stars, the animated series. We have a lot of different content that people have been supporting. And this has enabled us to bring on new creators that we are now publishing. So the first creator that we've signed is Spetty Sousa and his Universe Dark. So each creator brings with them their own universe, their own IP that's full of, just like the TOS versus just if you've got a shovel, bring two. Universe Dark is something that's he's passionate about in the same way that I'm passionate about my universe. And dark fantasy is your first taste of Spetty Sousa's Universe Dark. It follows Hiker, who is the main protagonist, and essentially he is, with his ragtag group of homies, is how I like to call it. I like how they roll. They are trying to stop the rise of the false ones, which are fallen angels that have been sealed for a long time, but their armies are reemerging and the darkness is returning, and it takes a different kind of darkness to deal with the darkness. And that's kind of what you get with Hiker and Munez, the one-eyed. And Golovig, the mysterious witch, is my girl, man. I really roll with Golovig. The Red Hood, like she's like a dope kind of deconstruction of Red Riding Hood.
That's what my imagination
I don't know if
was taking.
Spetty meant to do it, but like that's what I get. Like it's like a broken archetype. It's brilliant. He probably meant to do it. It's a brilliant thing. But she's kind of a facilitator of the story. I'm not going to give too much away, but if you want to know more about Spetty Sousa's dark fantasy, hit our website, the What's New page, cnscomics.com/what's-new. If you're going to type it, but just hit the webpage, click the link, or click any link that's out there on our pages, and it'll take you to this right now, I believe. And anybody, and this is the first time I'm announcing this to anybody, really, is anybody on that mailing list by midnight, the stroke of midnight on Halloween, the first moment that it becomes Halloween, you will be qualified. If you join after that, it tells me, like I can tell you didn't join before midnight, so I won't send you yours. But everybody else will get a free digital copy. It's a different cover. It's a cover you haven't seen yet, the Hex cover. So we're going to release that digitally, and it's going to be the first taste of anybody getting to read full-on dark fantasy. So our Kickstarter backers got the first 5 pages, those who back the captains, which will come live and available in our shop sometime in November. You'll be able to pick this one up as well. But those who backed the captains got a 5-page sample. People are just killing me about dark fantasy because they want it and I want to give it to them. But I was like, I got to do the planet thing. And I'm like, you know what? I can't. It's Halloween. It just makes sense. Let people get a taste. It's a 5-book run that we've got coming. We've pretty much got the line art done for 3 of those, I think, now. We're going to come to you guys to fund the dark fantasy next year. Once you get this taste, I know you're coming with me for this story too, because the Universe Dark is it's live. And I'm really, really excited about
You're gushing.
I know, man, because when you look, every time I look at it, like the way the colors pop, the way Andy did the colors, shout out to Andrew, who does the colors for Spetty Sousa's Dark Fantasy. And of course, Spetty is doing all the illustration, and little old me does the letters, trying to just stay out of everybody's way and make it so you can read it. But it's just it's a really raw, gritty looking feel. Like Spetty's pencil is like, I keep telling people, he's like an artist with a brush stroke with the pencil. Like it's just a way that it feels, like it feels a certain way. So when I saw his pencils and his inks, I was like, this can't have all color, because it would lose so much of those. You wouldn't be able to keep those brush stroke like pencils and inks. So it was very important to me to keep kind of that raw factor, because it's hand drawn and scanned in. So this isn't drawn digitally. This is real hand drawn art. And when you see it, and that, like, you don't, when I say it to somebody, it always makes sense to them, because when they look at it again, they're like, that's why it feels so real and raw. And he draws action just as well as any artist I've ever seen. His action scenes are phenomenal. So there's some really fantastic action scenes, and Andy really knows how to make, you know, everything, really frame it up. He's a colorist that really knows how to frame up that action with the color pop. So we came out with something that I'm very, very pleased with. The product. It's quite a bit different than what you'll get in the Tales of the Stars series. And what I mean by that is entirely different. It's a different kind of fantasy story. So we're offering you anything that you want. You can find it with CnS Comics. We don't just have sci-fi, high fantasy, or a space Western. That's just me, the Cosmic King. That's why they call me the Cosmic King. I prefer to keep it as far out of space as we can, man. But Spetty is in a Earth-like world, but that it's not Earth-like, but sort of. It's Earth, but it's a different world, and it's just a really. I want to stay in the universe dark, like it's kind of shaded over and it kind of feels cool. It feels in a lot of ways. That's what I like about it the most, is it's art that feels some kind of way when you look at it. So I believe everybody else is going to get that same vibe when they start flipping those pages and they're like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Wow. But
I am really, really excited about that.
And I'm so excited for your excitement, my brother.
Oh, yeah.
You're radiating, you're glowing.
That storytellers love. That's what CnS Comics is all about. And
yeah, that is really cool. And thank you so much for sharing all that with me today. It's amazing. I'm so happy with all the work that you and everybody at CnS Comics is doing.
Thank you.
You guys are doing fantastic work. I love the art. I love the direction that your universe is going. I see a lot of good things coming out of there, and I can't wait to see all the success that you guys have. It's
we're excited too. We're excited to get out to the cons and, you know, get to put some books in people's hands. We'll be in Fayetteville, North Carolina this weekend. So if you're watching and you get to see this and you're in the ENC, October 15th and 16th, I think, is Saturday and Sunday. They're getting started at 10 a.m. both days. They run pretty late. We'll be out there. You'll be able to get the main Tales of the Stars series, the Phase Zero 2021. You will not be able to get things that came out in a Kickstarter that just ended on October 1st. Sorry, should have backed the Kickstarter, but we'll be around for you. You'll be able to get the captains. You'll be able to get that digital sample of Spetty Season's Dark Fantasy just by joining the mailing list by midnight on October 31st, the day of the spooky. So the 30th at 11:59 p.m., right? When it turned into 12 o'clock, midnight, you know, with me now, everybody with me? When you become the next day, when it turned October 31st.
When it's no longer today and it's now tomorrow.
And it's the next day.
But that's
so
fantastic.
Make sure you hit that mailing list. So
absolutely. So everybody, check out all the work that CnS Comics is doing. I'm gonna leave all the links to all their work in the description section below. Subscribe to their newsletter before what? October 31st. Get it done. Check out all their work and all their social media. They're doing the Lord's work, and they're doing an excellent job, and support them. Absolutely. So first and foremost, I would like to thank Wilson, the Cosmic King Lee, for joining me on the Indie Corner. And as I just said, this is the Indie Corner, and I am Dre the Brute Daniels. Follow me on all those dope social media platforms you see underneath my head, which will be right there, hopefully, if I get this direction right there, at the Brute00 on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the goodies and goodies and goodies. Don't forget, everybody, to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to share the vid, share the wealth. This has been the Indie Corner. I'm Dre the Brute Daniels, and I'll catch you all next time. Also, if you want to support my channel, check out spinwiz.com or download the Spinwiz app and check out my comic series, Trouble. It was written with a lot of love, and it was definitely my favorite comic series to write. I've also written it in English and in Spanish, so whatever floats your boat, I got it for you. Thanks again, and check it out.